The recent rains have allowed all of us to take a deep breath of relief. But we've been through this cycle before and we know what's coming. Wildfire is an inevitable reality of living in Marin. The last fire season have brought the threat of wildfire too close to home. All throughout Marin, residents are waking up to the fact that we must make changes to adapt to the new reality. We love our landscapes, our homes, our communities, and we don't want to experience the devastation that so many of our neighbors to the north and south have endured. The good news is that we know a great deal about how fires spread, and we know how to shift the odds in our favor. It requires us to take action now, before the embers from a wildfire land in our yard. Welcome to Wildfire Watch. I'm Bill Tyler, Fire Chief of the Novato Fire District. People often tell me they can't afford to make their homes and yards more fire resistant. I get it. Some improvements can be costly, but there are many simple fixes that can be done on a budget. There are grants to offset costs of larger projects. The most important thing to consider is, what is the cost of inaction? Our show today takes a look at the real cost of wildfire in terms of lives lost, homes and communities destroyed, the devastation to the environment, the carbon released into the atmosphere. Against this backdrop, prevention efforts are a good investment. Let's begin by listening to some Marin residents talk about their concerns about the cost of fire prevention and the potential loss if we don't do the work.
Fires seem inevitable.
We can always do things to protect ourselves, even if what that means.
We used to have juniper here along this walkway, and we knew we needed to do something about it.
And I found out to cut down a tree, it was expensive. The whole thing was expensive.
But we procrastinated. How much was it going to cost? Who was going to do the work?
I'm concerned about those of us who cannot afford to have arborists and tree trimmers to take down trees.
What can the city do to help offset the cost and the labor on citizens that have to do that firework?
I live on a ridge and we've done a lot of fire mitigation work, and I'm curious as to how the mitigation work will reflect on insurance rates.
Can we expect to get coverage if we do the right thing, and can we get coverage at all no matter what?
So if a fire came through Marin, personally the biggest loss for us would be our home, our nest egg, but also the loss of the community.
But the other alternative is, what does it mean for the planet? Because think of the millions of tons of emissions that are caused by wildfires moving into the atmosphere. And we can't let that happen.
We decided to take the juniper out. Whatever we can do to keep our homes safe, to keep our neighborhood safe, to keep our community safe, we thought, let's do our part.
As we've heard, cost can be a significant barrier to doing fire prevention work. A little later, we're going to talk about grant programs that can offset some of those costs and inexpensive fixes that you can do it yourself. But first, I want to consider what is really at stake if a wildfire were to burn through Marin. We turn to our neighbors in Paradise, who share their harrowing experience, an urgent appeal for us to wake up and do what's necessary before it's too late.
So this is where my family's home used to be. And just down the road, my godfather's home, and my neighbors, the Angolias, the Andersons, and the McDonalds, and every home I ever played in as a kid. They were all lost on November 8th, 2018.
We thought we were ready for the fire should it ever come. We just doubted it would ever come our way and be as fast-moving and as destructive as it was.
And the fire hit like that, our whole town was gone in 6 hours.
19,000 structures burned, and tragically, 85 of my community members died on that day.
We had not prepared our house sufficiently so that when embers arrived with the winds blowing them, things wouldn't ignite and take our house with it. Unfortunately, I decided at the last minute that I would try to save the house by sweeping away and raking away the leaves and taking away anything near the doors on the back deck that could burn.
This is the Gold Nugget Museum, Paradise, California, the gem of our community. For those that had contents here, the things that we held dear for the entire ridge, we found value. A lot of us also lost our homes. A lot of us lost those heirlooms that can't be replaced. I can go on and on about the loss because it's immense.
There was just so much magic that happened here. That's why, I mean, I don't even get to build a home anytime soon, probably.
And because I'd wasted so much time in trying to save the house before evacuating, the power had been shut off in the meantime. I didn't have light. It was hard to find a flashlight. I was working in haste, and it occurred to me early on that every trip back and forth to the car from the house could be another few seconds that could cost me my life. The fire was moving too fast, and I was under pressure and couldn't think well.
And that is the sun. That is the sun up there.
So we had 38 trees that we did lose. Leaves had fallen, and I would even collect them. We had a deck all the way around the house, and I would shove them under the deck to get them out of the way, to keep it clean.
So we were home the morning of the campfire, and it came up this east side of Paradise here. So we were the first side that was hit with the campfire. So there was fire all on the ridge coming this way. And what we didn't lose our house. We had severe damage to our house, but we lost a 2-story shop that was here on this other side. And we have these big open spaces here, which is why I think it didn't travel to the house, is because we had this huge break here.
So this is where our house was before the fire. It was a 2-story A-frame that my grandparents bought in the early 60s. And my dad was raised here, and we raised our kids here and lived here happily. We got married here. We have lots of beautiful memories of living here. And we knew we wanted to stay here in Paradise, but we knew we had to do things different. We didn't ever want to have to live through that again. So it was really important for us to think about fire-wise landscaping and defensible space. And so instead of going with a stick-built house, we ended up going with this Quonset hut from Design Horizons. It's fire safe, it's fire resistant, there's no attic. The materials are fire resistant. So the porch is all framed in steel roof. Everything is framed in steel, and then we have concrete siding that looks like barnwood, and double pane windows, and then we have metal down below. So as we continue on with features, we're going to make sure that everything we do is fire safe.
All these trees we survived. I had been raking away a lot of debris on that side of the house. Feels a little emotional because I'm kind of starting to relive it a little bit.
I only wish I would have spent time in the months prior to the fire taking care of those things, so I didn't have to do it when it was time to bug out.
The business community also has a responsibility, an obligation, actually, to work together, public-private. It's so important, and it's too bad that we found this out after the fact.
But things I would do now, which we're going to do, is on our redwoods that we've replanted, bring them up, crop them up very tight up off the ground, have a lot of breaks in the yard that you can be defensive that way.
The greatest insurance policy that a community has is itself, our neighbors and our family members. That is exactly what we saw after the campfire. Homes opening up to us, taking each other in, neighbors picking up neighbors as they literally ran on their feet to escape the fire. Having a strong social fabric is going to be a key in the resiliency of a community facing disaster.
Businesses need to take actions ahead of time. One of those being that you need to upload your information into the cloud. Having hard copy files didn't do it for us, and we lost a lot of material. So take that opportunity.
After the campfire, we all came together. The silos that had existed before the campfire, the walls have come down. We're working together to make a brighter, better future.
It's home. It's just, I'm safe here, I'm happy here, and I know it's not what it was, but I don't want to be anywhere else. It's like I think about it sometimes, where else would I want to be? Nowhere else. I'm home.
To the people of Marin, I urge you to make a plan now. We don't know when disaster will strike. Know who needs help. Know what help you need. Connect with your neighbors. Make a plan now.
Let's work together. Prepare now so you don't have to rebuild later.
Don't wait, don't procrastinate. Get out there, get busy, clean up your property, make a defensible space. You will save your home if you do that.
Don't think this can't happen to you. It can happen to anyone.
Make an evacuation plan. Make sure you've got a go box with all of your essential papers and documents in it.
There are so many things I would have done differently. Don't put off those things that you need to do to make your home fire safe. Don't put off the landscaping. It could be a life or death matter.
You know, when I go to tell you, I'm making it so big because that's how much it hurts. That's how much, if you don't do what you need to do, it hurts so bad. And I don't want you to hurt that way. I want you to take care of yourselves. And even if it means learning, just do it. Just take care of yourself, take care of your home, and enjoy it.
Powerful stories from the people of Paradise to the people of Marin. We hear you and we're taking action to try and prevent and mitigate against those wildfires. The escalation of wildfires in the past few years has made prevention a priority at the federal and state level. California's wildfire prevention budget is over $1.5 billion. But what does that mean for us in Marin? Here to help us understand the situation is Marc Levin, longtime Assembly member for District 10. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be a part of this program and important for us to hear the message from Paradise, one that we should heed and take as a warning of what can happen if we don't prepare.
Agreed. You know, we're hearing about a lot of funding that's coming from the federal government to the national forests, money for the state, for more firefighters, but not a lot that we're hearing about locally here in Marin. So can you tell me what's coming down the pike?
Absolutely. So I'm grateful that the federal government's paying attention to California. Most of the forests in California are national forests, but we also have funding that we've been able to negotiate in our state budget to make for more defensible space in our communities. Some of that money is coming to Marin, and that's a good thing. And Marin is displaying its own leadership with the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, and this is going to benefit a lot of homeowners. We're trying to figure out a way, how do we get grants and money to help create the defensible space for people who are struggling to make their homes safer, and of course the entire community benefits. I've introduced legislation, AB 1522, to create a grant and incentive program for homeowners to do that.
Oh. Well, that's great. I think, you know, people are getting their assessments now. They're going to get a list of actionable items that they need to take, and so there will be funding then for folks to begin to try and harden their homes, to work from the house out.
So in Marin, for those that are able to avail themselves of MWPA's funding, that's absolutely correct, but I don't think that anyone should wait if they have the ability to start making those hardening investments now, because they could be waiting a very long time, particularly in other parts of the state. Hopefully my legislation will pass this year, and then we'll have a program for the whole state that Marin is benefiting from locally.
That's great. So these actions that people can take, in a sense, become their own insurance. And that's another thing that we've been hearing a lot from the public and our fire agencies. Folks are telling us that their insurance rates are increasing. They're doubling, they're tripling. They're concerned about them being canceled. Fire agencies are going out, doing assessments, helping write letters so that they can keep their insurance. But what's happening around that issue?
I've been hearing from constituents about non-renewals, about skyrocketing rates, and I sent out an email late this summer asking people to share their stories, and I had 50 people respond just in the course of a weekend. And this was a concern for me. It was really where the beginning of AB 1522 generated to create a class of catastrophic wildfire insurance for moderate and high-risk areas, people that live in wildland urban interfaces like I do, like so many people in Marin and even across California do, to be able to get insurance, strengthen the California marketplace by having reinsurance-backed insurance, similar to the California Earthquake Authority. After the Northridge earthquake, insurers didn't want to cover earthquake. The California Earthquake Authority made this possible. So this Catastrophic Wildfire Insurance Act is going to be modeled in a way to strengthen that insurance marketplace in California. It will also have the grant and incentive component so that people can make those investments and understand that they're making investments that will make their homes safer. And that's important. We've heard about scores that people have, that they're getting dropped by their insurer because their fire risk score is too high. These scores are proprietary. They're not transparent. They're not standard. We need to create some standardization so that homeowners can make investments that they understand will make their home safer, but also make it easier for them to get insurance.
Yeah, I think people are beginning to understand that they need to take action and that there is help out there and there's people working hard, whether it's for more funding or to be able to keep high quality insurance at reasonable rates.
Yeah, we're seeing this across the state. I was up in Paradise. I met with the mayor, the city manager. They're informative and helpful in understanding how we can create insurance, even for a place like Paradise where the fuel reduction has already occurred tragically because of the fire, and PG&E lines are being undergrounded. They're still struggling to get insurance. So how do we do something that actually works for all of California? During my campaign for insurance commissioner, I'm hearing from places all across the state where they've had this struggle. So we need a regulator in place to create the standardization important for the scoring system to make sense for most Californians, and also to make sure that the marketplace is strengthened.
Marc Levin, thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Bill.
Much appreciated. And now, Mark Brown, the Executive Coordinator of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, will let us know what's happening around Marin to get ready for the fire season in our recurring segment, Fire Beat.
Winter's upon us, and that means it's time to start preparing for the upcoming fire season. I can't emphasize that enough. So what does that mean to you? Well, it's a great time to start engaging in those home hardening projects that you've been putting off. It's also an excellent time to start pruning and limbing up your trees. And if you're planning on converting your garden or your landscaping to be more water efficient, now is the time to start planting those drought and fire resistant plants. And in order to help you to do that, the MWPA has launched a grant program. Visit marinwildfire.org, go up to the resident info tag, and click on Resident Grants. We are currently offering grants for defensible space for those with low income and access and functional needs, up to $1,000 per residence. We are also offering matching grants for home hardening, up to $500 per residence. And our grant programs are connected to defensible space evaluations, so we know we are focusing our efforts on the most important items. So if you've received an evaluation, great, simply apply for a grant. If you haven't, don't worry about it. Apply for the grant and we'll work to get an evaluation completed at your residence. And many of our member agencies also have grant programs that are tailored to the needs of their individual communities. So please reach out to your fire department and find out what they may have to offer for you. And now, it's time to go to work.
Place is looking good, Goat.
Always getting ready for fire season in Marin.
Will you help me with my house?
Sure, neighbor. Ain't a wall of fire I prepared for.
It's those real burning embers.
Blowing, burning bits, what a hassle.
To ignite my castle.
Breaking dead and dying tinder.
Breaking the fuel ladder.
Blowing leaves from my gutter.
Cut bamboo like butter.
Harden up my home adapting. Wildfire preparation is my intention. Done the work, no hesitating. I'll feel better if I have to be evacuating. When you live in Marin, adapting to wildfire is our new way of life.
That goat's been busy. So let's follow his example. There are many things we can do to make our homes safer. Here to show us how is our own Aaron Harris with this month's DIY installing ember-resistant vents.
Hello, fire prevention folk. We're glad you care. This is the DIY guy, Aaron Harris, here to harden our homes. It's the pausing of fire season. Fire season is never over, but we're going to prepare and we're going to work through the winter and we're going to harden our homes, but we're not going to do it alone. We're going to do it with my friend Kazoo from Fire Farms, and she is a contractor, a musician, an activist, but a kindly helper today. Help us harden our home, Kazoo.
For sure, Aaron. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do, from putting in a metal roof, putting in gutter guards to protect debris from accumulating. You can do stucco on your side of your house. But the most important and probably the easiest thing that everybody can do is to put in fireproof venting or ember-proof venting. So we're gonna start over here. We've got a couple vents ready to go. Let's check it out.
Oh, vents.
All right, so right here we have a perfect example of a fire starter. These are vents, foundation vents that you'll find in most homes. And the issue with this is that these holes are big enough for embers to pass through and set your house on fire.
And embers are what we're worried about. High winds circulating in this area, and I just happen to have some embers.
Ah, perfect.
Let's see what it looks like.
All right, so let's see if that was real embers. What do we have?
Boom.
Tons of embers on a flammable surface. There goes your house.
House ignition.
Completely avoidable with a simple replacement of an ember-safe vent.
Let's do that.
All right, so we're gonna just take off the old one and replace it with one of these Vulcan vents. There's different brands you can use. This is just the one we're gonna use.
Now, Vulcan has got the honeycomb on the inside, a wire to hold the honeycomb in, but then what's really going to stop the embers is this 16th inch stainless steel mesh. So that's going to happen. That's going to stop the embers coming in. The honeycomb is going to shut down. If it gets 700 degrees, it shuts down so flames won't get in there. So that the honeycomb's really for flames up against the house. So this is a full protection vent. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Now, if you didn't want to spend all that extra money, you could use a finer mesh to get rid of, to make the holes smaller.
Extra money for this vent?
Extra money for this vent.
Okay.
But if you wanted to, even just putting a 16th inch hole screen on the back of this would be a great upgrade from what we have now.
Yeah, that would knock out all the embers and it would save your insides.
So for the protection of your house, you want to make sure you're caulking the back of your vents.
And what are you using?
I'm using silicone here. If we weren't in such a quick mode, I would normally use liquid nails for this. So I'm putting a nice thick bead all the way around here where the surface is going to touch.
And this is a standard size vent. The majority of the houses have this size, and literally pop them out, pop them in, and you have hardened. First step in hardening your home.
All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and put this guy back in here. And I'm gonna fasten it with some number 8 3/4 inch self-tapping screws. Where are they?
So let me show from the inside. Because we have it in a door, you can see. So now you see it's sitting inside, and you've got your honeycomb here, and then the mesh on the outside, boom, sits. Now, what you will notice is that we've moved from a painted vent that was just painted over the top to a shiny metal. So afterwards, you're gonna come along and you're gonna paint the edges, make sure it's nice and clean and tidy. You can even go over the top. Now, airflow is important, so you don't want to get too much paint over the top of your vent.
And that should be it. So I'm gonna come through and do a little caulk bead just to protect from water intrusion. And that'll be that.
Beautiful. what is it, 5 minutes for some peace of mind? Well
There
done,
you go.
Kazoo.
Yeah. You know, that 5 minutes could save your home.
Let's go see and talk about some other vent possibilities.
Great, sounds good.
Vents land. What have you made for us, Kazoo?
So I just put together a couple of examples of standard vents you'll find in attics. So this is a dormer vent. Right now we have an 1/8 inch mesh on here. On this one you'll see we've got the louvered outside and a pretty wide gauge on the inside. You really want to get down to a 1/16 inch mesh behind any vent.
Embers prevented from getting into your attic.
And then these little guys, they're great. They have a 1/16 inch mesh on the backside, louvered on the front, so that'll take an ember shower down and away. You could also do a honeycomb vent, which is gonna actually close up and keep embers all the way out.
Direct flame and those will melt right up.
And they just pop out, put a little caulk behind it and pop them right in. Very simple install if you're handy on a ladder.
Sweet, man. Vents. Thank you very much for doing the work. Where do people find you?
So we have a website, it's www.firefarms.org, or you can find us through FireSafe Marin.
That easy, people. Kazoo, it's been really fun to work with you.
You too, Aaron.
16th inch, best for keeping embers out of your basement and your attic. 8th, pretty good, and the code. 4, change it.
Don't do it.
Change it. It's wintertime. It is a great time to harden your house. Start the process. You saw how easy it was for us to change a vent. You change vents, then you start working on the other stuff.
All right, let's get to work.
Come on.
People often assume that the cost of building a fire-resistant home is more expensive than traditional construction. That's not the case. A Headwaters Economics home hardening study from 2018 found that a new home built to wildfire-resistant code can be constructed for roughly the same cost as a typical home. It's not just about new construction, though. When making repairs and upgrades to your home, it's no more expensive to choose fire-resistant materials. So when it's time to replace your cedar shingle siding, choose a fiber cement shingle that looks exactly like wood. They won't burn, they last longer, they hold paint better, they don't rot or mold, and cost no more than cedar. Similar materials are available for roofing, decks, and fences. Don't be fooled into thinking you can't afford to make your home more fire resistant. The initial investment is the same, the long-term cost is actually lower, and your home, family, and neighborhood will be safer.
As Aaron and Kazoo showed us, changing out vents to prevent embers from entering our home is one of the most cost-effective measures you can take. The important thing is to make a plan, prioritize the work, and chip away at it. We heard that there are local grant programs coming down the pike. I know in Novato, many people have taken advantage of our matching grants program. San Rafael has a program to encourage the removal of juniper. Fairfax, Central Marin, Southern Marin have their own programs. I encourage you to go to FireSafe Marin's website and check out what's available in your area. As we've heard from the folks in Paradise, our success as a community is dependent upon us helping one another, reaching out to our neighbors, find out who may need help, or raise your hand and ask if you need help. Step up and do the work together. If you want to learn more, please stay engaged and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks for watching and stay safe.